and welcome to Stage to Sofa. Today it is my absolute privilege to be joined by the lovely Brittany Crinson. Brittany is a fabulous wig designer and also expert makeup artist that has worked at the Lyric Opera Chicago and Joffrey Ballet, amongst other incredible opera houses around the US. Brittany, it is such a joy to have you here today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. So how are you coping with this huge change that you found yourself with and this huge transition from stage to sofa?
Coping is a good word to use. Well, I have a 20-month-old daughter, so she keeps me very busy. And honestly, all of my work has just come to a complete standstill and has been canceled. So I'm just being patient and waiting and hoping that our theater doors can open soon.
Let's keep our fingers crossed for that. I really do hope so. And hopefully in a few weeks, months' time, we'll have a clearer picture. I'm wondering now, what made you get into opera in the first place? How did that happen and how did it unfold?
Well, it's funny how it unfolded. I kind of fell into it, I like to say. I grew up in Michigan outside of Detroit, and I was very involved with theater in high school. I used to say I wanted to be on Broadway, but had a bit of stage fright. So I found some love and passion with doing work behind the scenes. And I actually got a scholarship for college in prop design, but I wanted to go as far away from home as possible. So I did do a semester away in college, but I also don't like schoolwork. So I found myself at cosmetology school at 18 years old, and I got my license in cosmetology and started working in a salon, and I didn't like that either. So it was just like a game of finding out what I liked at such a young age. And I started working at Michigan Opera Theater as just somebody on the crew to put wigs on people, and I had no idea that opera still existed or that people sang it. It just wasn't in my upbringing at all. So I started to fall in love with the music, first of all, but then also fall in love with the craft. I mean, there's lace front wigs and the makeup. It's something that you don't see every day. And the woman that I was working with, who is now Sarah Hatton, who's the head of hair and makeup at the Lyric Opera of Chicago, she's my mentor. She kind of scooped me up at a young age, and I went with her to work at Des Moines Metro Opera as an intern. And from there, I turned into an assistant and then eventually took over as head of the department and followed her to Chicago. So I really did fall into it. It was all about meeting the right people. But I think I had a natural talent for the art form. And I think a lot of singers would agree with me. I really enjoy serving them in a way and making sure that their performance is great on my end. Like I just want to make sure that they don't have to worry about what they look like. I worry about that for them.
That's so amazing and such an inspiring story that you followed your
Thank
mentor and now full circle, you are the head of a department. It's just so incredible. And I have seen some of your designs and they are incredible. So I would encourage any of your viewers to look you up and have a look at some of the pictures, because my goodness, what you can create is absolutely out of this world. And you were explaining to me before when we were having a chat that they are all made purely out of hair.
Yes. You had brought up some tree wigs that I made, and they were all out of human hair. It was for Rappaccini's daughter, and we wanted to have more bodies on stage, so we made some trees. And I just found an opportunity to do something a little more creative than just putting a hat on somebody. Why not make some branches out of hair? Sometimes we use synthetic hair, and sometimes we'll stuff a cage or some wiring through the hair so it's lighter on the head. But yeah, we use human hair.
It was amazing. I just couldn't get over it. It's so intricate. It was fantastic. And as I said,
Thank
definitely
you.
go and check out Brittany's stuff because it's fab. So another thing that you picked up in your previous answer was that you work for the singers. You love working to help them and help them be comfortable on stage. I'm wondering, do you have the same rush of adrenaline before a show when you're backstage and you're putting an artist into their costume? Do you have that rush of adrenaline before?
I do. Even before, especially in tech and all the rehearsals, I always say, people go crazy. They get so chaotic, and it is just like chaos trying to put a show together. But I find joy in it. Like, we're just figuring it out. We're just putting the puzzle pieces together. And so when the show is finally happening, it's just, well, it's a sense of relief, but I feel this like power surge through me. And especially before a quick change, my heart rate skyrockets, and I have to like take deep breaths and like go through in my head what I have to do next to make sure that it goes smoothly for them, because if I make a mistake, they're going to miss their entrance.
Absolutely. I love that it's all part of the same thing and that you all work together. It's such a team effort. And, as a singer myself, I have experienced that. And it's so important to have people like yourself so grounded and so calm, just having everything in place, ready to go on the night. It's fabulous. So fantastic. And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I'm now wondering if you could go back to one point in your life, be it career or personal, what would it be and why?
Actually, I think I would want to go back to last summer with Des Moines Metro Opera. My daughter was 8 months old, and I was putting 3 main stage operas together, overseeing a crew of 4 additional people. Next to myself was 4 or 5 extra people. And then taking care of my child. And my husband was in Chicago. He owns a restaurant, so he couldn't be with me in Iowa. My family came to help, but I look back and I think I was Superwoman. I was nursing a child and putting 3 operas on stage and taking care of so many people, and somehow managed to take care of myself as well. I'm mind blown by myself that I could do that.
That is incredible. I mean, anyone who knows with a child under a year, even past a year, it's challenging. So to have that, and like you said, 3 operas, wow, you are Superwoman. I agree with you.
Thank you.
So I'm also wondering, how do you see our art form moving forwards, the other side of these challenging times? Because there will be another side. We don't know when, but how do you see it moving forwards in the new world we find ourselves?
I think it's going to be very different. I'm hopeful that at one point we will be able to have that human connection that we all love and appreciate. But I think I kind of see myself with a plastic shield over my face and having to wear gloves and just making sure to keep that distance between myself and the singers. I think it's going to be a difficult process, but we love the art, so we're going to have to figure out a way to just do it in a healthy way and keep everybody away from any sort of sickness. So it'll happen in time. I don't see it happening in the next couple months, but I think hopefully by the end of the year we can dabble with that, because the Joffrey's got the Nutcracker to do. So
fingers crossed. That is very important at Christmas. Oh my goodness, you've got to have the Nutcracker. So in terms of you, what has been your biggest obstacle to get to the point in your career that you're at today? Because you're at a very, very high level, but what's been that biggest obstacle to get there?
So as I mentioned, I started really young, and I think people saw me as this young, I hate to say it, young, cute, blonde girl who maybe is getting her way because of how she looks and how she presents herself, and not because of her talent. So I always felt that I had to strive to prove myself through my work. I even went as far as dyeing my hair brown when I moved to Chicago, because I didn't want to be, I wanted to be accepted. And I felt like with this bubbly, bright personality that they weren't going to take me seriously, because I was 22, 23 years old when I started working at the Lyric Opera of Chicago, and everybody was in their 30s or above. And, you know, I had the talent and I had the skill set, but I just needed to let that be what was shining instead of me. So it's hard, and it still is. I still feel like I have to. People think that I'm younger than I am. I'm in my 30s now. And I think it's something that singers also struggle with too, proving themselves with their voice and not just their presence. But in there, so.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm wondering, did you experience that predominantly in the opera world or also in the TV world? Because I know you work in TV and film as well. Was it kind of a feeling that you had in both?
Actually, no. I think because I started with TV and film so late, actually only in the last year or two, I had my roots in Chicago. I have several people that can back me, and I've somewhat made a name for myself, I'd like to say, in the city. So I think that having that behind me has already created who I am as a person. So they're not looking at that. And film is actually so different than theater. It's a lot of sitting and waiting. Whereas theater, it's just go, 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 problem solve, make it happen.
Definitely. And I'm really interested that you've had that answer, because I think there is something to be said for, as you get older, you do sort of feel into your boots and sit into your boots, and it suddenly becomes, as you said, perhaps not this thing that it was when you were 23. So I'm really glad to hear that. In terms of advice you would give to the next generation, perhaps, of wig makers, of designers, of makeup artists in TV and film and opera, what advice do you have for them at this current time in the situation that we're all in? What would you say to them?
Well, this is the perfect time to practice your skill set, right? We don't know how much time left until we can get back out there, but obviously practice is what's going to get you to where you want to be. So practice building a wig, practice styling and grow, but also be a sponge. You're young, absorb any information you can. Find a mentor. I can happily say I would not be here without my mentor, who is now my best friend, who is like a sister to me. I would not have gotten to where I am without her. So if you don't have that support system, it's going to be really hard. But it takes time. You're not going to become a designer overnight. And I had to learn that the hard way. I had to work really hard to get to where I am now. But it'll happen.
I love that. Very, very, very positive. I love it. So what is your favorite thing about your job? And also, what's the most outrageous wig that you've ever had to make?
Okay. My favorite thing, honestly, I think it's the connections that I make with the singers. As much as I love styling and being creative and doing all of my skills in one thing to create art, it's just you give and you give and you give, but the moment that a singer appreciates you and needs you, it's when you feel like you feel needed. And it's great to feel needed, and I'm kind of that person. Like I'm a giver, but I also want to receive something. So I can make this beautiful piece of art and put it on your head and you can walk away, but I know that you're happy with it, and it makes all the difference. So those relationships really mean something to me.
That's
and
fabulous.
Then the most outrageous wig, man. That's a tough one. I I think maybe, oh man, I don't know. There's been so many. I mean, the trees were really something. In Rappaccini's Daughter with Des Moines Metro Opera. At the Lyric, we did a new production of La Traviata, and the wigs were like, some of them were 2 to 3 feet tall. Those were outrageous. And I'd say another at Des Moines was our Rusalka. Her first wig, it needed to look like it was floating in water, so it just had pieces going everywhere. So I don't know, there's so many.
I can imagine. I mean, wow, pieces floating on water. I don't know how your brain can come up with anything to make it actually sit on someone's head and be beautiful like I've seen your designs are is incredible. So yeah, so much respect for you. Brittany, I have my final question now. What piece of advice would you give to an 18-year-old Brittany?
Oof. I would say recognize your weaknesses and realize that you have anxiety and that's okay, and there's nothing wrong with it, and be patient.
I love that. I really love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Brittany. You've been such a wonderful, wonderful guest on Stage to Sofa. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome. Take care.
You too. Bye.